I want you to imagine a man named David. David is 42 years old, and by every external measure, he has won. He lives in a home that smells of expensive cedar and fresh espresso. He drives a car that handles the road with such precision it feels like an extension of his own will. When he walks into a room, people straighten their ties. He's a senior vice president, a title he spent 15 years of 80-hour weeks to earn. But tonight, David is sitting in his driveway, the engine of that beautiful car still ticking as it cools, and he can't bring himself to go inside. He's exhausted. Not the kind of exhaustion a good night's sleep can fix, but a soul-deep weariness that comes from realizing that he's built a life he no longer enjoys. He wants to quit. He dreams of opening a small woodworking shop or teaching at a local college, something that makes him feel like a human being again. But then, he thinks about the mortgage on that cedar-scented house. He thinks about the private school tuition for his kids. He thinks about the prestige he would lose. He realizes that the very salary he worked so hard to achieve has become the bars of a cage. He is successful, yes, but he is not free. Hi, I'm Rabbi Soul. Together, we'll decode the ultimate laws of money, helping you understand the root of wealth and master the financial game. We live in a culture that worships the climb. From the moment we enter the school system, we are taught that the goal of life is to increase our value in the marketplace. We are told that a higher salary is the ultimate solution to all our problems. If you're stressed, earn more. If you're unhappy, earn more. If you feel insecure, earn more. We treat a high income like a universal solvent that can wash away any discomfort. But there is a dark side to this narrative that no one talks about during graduation ceremonies or corporate orientations. Most of us fundamentally misunderstand what a high salary actually represents. We see it as a reward for our talent, and in part, it is. But in the modern economy, a high salary is often something else. It is a high-interest loan against your freedom. We assume that as our income grows, our options grow with it. We think that more money means more choices. But for a vast number of high earners, the opposite happens. The more you earn, the narrower your path becomes. You find yourself trapped in a phenomenon known as golden handcuffs. It's a strange, quiet tragedy. You aren't being held back by a lack of resources, but by a surplus of them. You've accidentally built a life that is so expensive to maintain that you can no longer afford to do anything else. We struggle not because we are greedy, but because we've been sold a version of the American dream that doesn't include an exit strategy. We've been taught how to earn, but we were never taught how to stop. To understand how David, and perhaps a part of you, ended up in this driveway, we have to look at the psychological mechanics of success. It begins with something called lifestyle creep, but that term is too clinical for how it actually feels. It's more like a slow, comfortable drowning. When you get that first big raise, you don't buy a mansion. You buy a slightly better bottle of wine. You move into a slightly nicer apartment. You upgrade your gym membership. These feel like reasonable rewards for your hard work. But then, something happens in your brain. Your baseline for normal shifts. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. The human brain is incredibly good at turning luxuries into necessities. The leather seats that felt like a miracle the first week become just the seats by the second month. The problem is that while your happiness with these things plateaus, the cost of maintaining them stays high. You have to keep earning at that new level just to feel fine. Then, the social pressure kicks in. When you earn a certain amount, you find yourself in new circles. Your neighbors, your colleagues, and your friends are all spending at a certain level. If you don't keep up, you feel like an outsider. You start buying things not because you want them, but because they are the cost of admission to the life you think you're supposed to have. This is where the handcuffs really start to tighten. You aren't just paying for a house, you're paying for a status that you're terrified to lose. There is also a hidden stress consumption cycle that high earners fall into. When your job is high pressure and soul-crushing, you look for ways to compensate for that misery. You pay for the 5-star hotel because you only have 3 days off and you deserve the best. You buy expensive gadgets or clothes because you need a hit of dopamine to get through a brutal week. You outsource everything, your cleaning, your cooking, your yard work, because you have no time or energy left to be a person. So, you work more to pay for the conveniences that allow you to work more. It's a closed loop. You're earning $250,000 a year, but after the mortgage, the car payments, the private schools, the high-end convenience services, and the stress relief shopping, you're living paycheck to paycheck just as much as you were when you earned $50,000. The only difference is that now the stakes are much higher. If the person earning $50,000 loses their job, they can pivot. If you lose yours, your entire world collapses. This creates a state of perpetual low-grade anxiety. You can't take a risk. You can't speak up against a toxic boss. You can't quit to start that business you've been dreaming about for a decade. You are effectively an indentured servant to your own lifestyle. The high salary, which was supposed to give you the world, has instead taken away your ability to move within it. You are a passenger in a luxury jet, but you realize with horror that you aren't the pilot. The bank is. The shift happens when you stop looking at your bank statement and start looking at your calendar. You realize that money is a renewable resource. You can always make another dollar. But time is a disappearing one. Every hour you spend in a meeting you hate, or working for a company whose values you don't share, is an hour you will never get back. The turning point is the moment you realize that rich is a number, but wealth is a state of mind. Wealth is the ability to wake up in the morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. If you can't say that, it doesn't matter how many zeros are in your bank account. You are poor in the ways that actually count. This realization requires a fundamental restructuring of your identity. For years, you might have defined yourself by your title or your income. I am a lawyer, or I am a director. But when you decide to pick the lock on those golden handcuffs, you have to find a new way to see yourself. You have to be okay with being less in the eyes of society, so that you can be more in the eyes of your family and yourself. It's about moving the goalposts from more to enough. Enough is the most dangerous word in the English language to a consumerist society, because once you have enough, you can no longer be controlled. When you define exactly what you need to be happy, and realize it's usually far less than what you're currently spending, the power dynamic shifts. The company no longer owns you. The lifestyle no longer dictates your choices. You reclaim the driver's seat. This isn't about laziness or quiet quitting. It's about intentionality. It's about deciding that your life is too valuable to be sold to the highest bidder. It's the realization that a smaller house with a peaceful mind is a far better investment than a mansion filled with dread. So, how do we practically dismantle the cage? It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't require moving into a cabin in the woods, unless that's what you truly want. It starts with a radical honesty about your spending. I want you to sit down and look at your expenses from the last 3 months. Don't look at them as numbers. Look at them as hours of your life. If you spend $1,000 a month on a car payment, and you earn $50 an hour after taxes, that car is costing you 20 hours of your life every single month. Is that car worth 2.5 days of your freedom? Maybe it is. But for many things you're paying for, the answer will be a resounding no. Start by creating what I call a freedom fund. This is different from an emergency fund. An emergency fund is for when life happens to you, a broken water heater or a medical bill. A freedom fund is for when you want to happen to life. It's the money that stays in a boring savings account, giving you the quiet confidence to say no to a project you hate, or yes to a lower-paying job that actually excites you. Next, practice the 1-year freeze. The next time you get a raise or a bonus don't change a single thing about your life. Don't buy a new watch, don't upgrade the car, don't even change your grocery list. Put 100% of that new money toward your freedom fund or paying off debt. This breaks the link between income and consumption. It proves to your brain that you don't need more to be okay. Also, start looking for performative consumption. These are the things we buy primarily because we want others to see us owning them. It might be the brand of your clothes, the neighborhood you live in, or even the type of wine you bring to a party. If you can eliminate the need to impress people who aren't even paying attention to you, you'll be amazed at how much money and freedom you suddenly have. Finally, invest in your human capital outside of your job. Develop skills and hobbies that have nothing to do with your current career. This builds a psychological safety net. If you know you can garden, or code, or teach, or fix things, the threat of losing your high-paying job becomes less terrifying. You realize that you are a capable person with or without that specific paycheck. If you're listening to this and you feel like David, sitting in that driveway, I want you to know that it's not too late. You aren't a failure for wanting something different, and you aren't stuck, no matter how heavy those handcuffs feel. The world will try to tell you that downsizing is a step backward. It will try to tell you that you're wasting your potential if you aren't constantly maximizing your earnings. But your greatest potential isn't your ability to generate revenue for a corporation. It's your ability to live a life that feels honest and meaningful to you. True success is the ability to look at your life and realize you wouldn't trade your Tuesday for anyone else's. It's the quiet peace of knowing that your worth isn't tied to a spreadsheet and your freedom isn't for sale. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to leap off the cliff today. Just start loosening the screws. Start reclaiming your hours. Because at the end of the day, the only wealth that actually matters is the time you have to spend with the people you love, doing the things that make you feel alive. Progress is more important than perfection. You're doing better than you think.